I've heard people try to get 100% seller financing, and that's just not like there's no value to the seller to do that. Like that's never going to happen. So like don't even. I mean, you can try it, but they're not going to take you seriously.
When we bought our resale, that was hard in the beginning. It took me about a year to get that turned around. Granted, there were some things that weren't in our favor, that it was a hard location. There were no other locations in the market. There were some things, and I went in cocky because we were crushing it with the first store, and I got slapped with some humble pie there. Yeah, you do have other franchisees that want to help you. Surprisingly, like there are franchise systems where like franchisees will sometimes bend over backwards to really help you in the process. There's some franchisors where they even assign you mentors.
Honestly, like a lot of times when push comes to shove, people are just like, when they think about taking out $1 million loan, they're just like, I'm not going to do that, and that, and that's something you need to really be straight with yourself when you think you want to resell, is like to replace your income. Like, well, if you look inside yourself, you're not really willing to take out that kind of loan and risk, then, I would just start from new.
Have you ever considered buying an existing business before? Oftentimes people find this attractive because there can be existing sales and cash flow in place, allowing you to step into a business with obvious benefits. In this episode, I sit down with Kevin, who is a franchise broker on the Franchise Empire team. And between the two of us and our team, we've helped well more than a dozen of our clients through navigating the world of franchise resales. So we've had clients buy, dirt cheap turnaround opportunities for less than 100 grand that they were able to then ramp up pretty quickly and get turned around, all the way to clients who bought franchise resales doing over $2 million in sales with strong existing cash flow. So in this episode, we break down the pros and cons and some of the key things that you need to know about potentially buying a franchise resale and just how to navigate that entire process. This could really help make or save you a lot of money. Now, if you want to buy a franchise in the next 12 months, you should check out my free franchise masterclass at franchiseempire.com/masterclass. And if you want to work with me and my team on finding or buying a franchise or resale business, then you can go to franchiseempire.com/check territory, and you can schedule a free call to see what is available in your area. The link is also in the description below. With that said, sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode. Welcome to the Franchise Empire Show. They say Rome wasn't built in a day, and building your empire doesn't happen overnight. My name is Tarek Johnson, and owning franchises is what helped me go from employee to employer and start building my empire for my family. So this podcast is for you, the empire builders. For those of you who want to build something that stands the test of time. This is for those of you who are crazy enough to believe that you can make the dream in your head come to life. This podcast is all about bringing you real people who are building real empires so you can get inside their mind and heart and get proven strategies and actionable insights that will catapult you to build, grow, and scale your empire. All right. What's up, everyone? Happy Thursday. I believe it's Thursday. Happy Thursday. Welcome to the live stream on the secret world of franchise resales. I got a special guest. What's up, man?
What's going on? Thanks for having me.
For sure. Thanks for coming. At the last minute, I sent Kevin a message. I'm like, hey, you want to come talk about resales? And I'm excited too, because he told me something that we'll tell you in a little bit about some resales that we recently, or Kevin got some intel on. But I'm going to share my screen, and basically the whole point of this is to tell you about the world of franchise resales. And we have a bit of a kind of not presentation, but just some talking points that we'll walk you through. So Kevin, from your perspective, like what do you think of resales overall, like versus new? Like who do you think that like a resale is a better fit for? What's your just overall thoughts on resales?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody should at least explore what resales may be open in their market when they're considering, investing in a franchise. Resales typically, like, I feel like they usually fall in one of two buckets. Like, either they're underperforming and maybe the current owner's just not a good fit in the franchise, and so you're going to get them at a very good value, and it's going to be a turnaround opportunity, or they're 10 years in and they're retiring and it's making very good money. You're going to have to pay a healthy price on that, but it still makes sense. So um, yeah, I think you should look at those opportunities regardless if like, anything about buying an existing business. It is a different type of process, and that's why we have the support we do. But I don't know if I'd say like there's a specific type of person that should look at resales over others. I don't know. It's an interesting question. I haven't really thought of it before.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is, and, resales, the way that I describe it, it's like stepping onto a moving train,
Yeah.
and especially, there's some resales out there. I know you were telling me about, there's gonna be resales that are selling for over 1,000,000, and usually if that's the case, that means it's doing probably multiple 6 figures in profit,
Hmm.
and there's probably a team in place, and some of these resales sometimes have, 10, 15 employees already, and so from my perspective, someone who's like never managed people before, or like doesn't kind of have those leadership traits yet. Maybe they're a great employee in what they do as an individual person, but stepping onto a high performing resale could be really difficult. It could almost be like a new teenager like trying to learn how to drive in a Ferrari, where it's
Yeah.
like it's gonna be fucking hard to control that thing. I didn't mean to say the F word. Sorry. Uh, this is how Kevin and I talk in regular meetings.
We forgot we're live streaming. That's hilarious.
Oh man. Anyways, this is how I talk in real life. So if you don't like it, you can deal with it. Because this is who I am. So
It's a really good point, though. I definitely agree. If it's your first business, if you haven't had experience managing a team, like yeah, that I think that makes a lot of sense because at the end of the day, you're gonna still have to like cover your debt payment and make sure that business is at least on this straight line. Obviously, you want it to go like this, but that can create a whole other set of issues if you get into something that's kind of over your head.
100%. So, all right, so let's start diving in. The first, I know that some of you won't stick around. Oh, yeah, and if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. What's up, Purple Blue? I see that we got some questions. We'll hit questions at the end. Hi, Michelle from New Jersey. So yeah, drop us a comment in the stream. Let us know where you're tuning in from, city and state. That would be awesome. And if you have any questions about franchise resales, um, overall, or just franchise questions, drop them below. What I'll do is I'll drop this quick thing, which will say for any of you guys that want to see if there are any franchise resales in your specific market or area, then you can go to franchiseempire.com/resales, and the team can do a complimentary check for you to see what is available in your area. And I just dropped the link down below. All right, I already see we have some questions coming in. Cool. Let me just get rid of this banner. And by the way, this whole module that we're about to go over, Kevin and I, this is just one small module from our Franchise Buyers Academy. Our Franchise Buyers Academy is like our introductory course on how to make money with franchising. What are the different methods? What are some of the profit margins? We pull up different franchises and go over how to make money with them, how to scale, kind of how to hire people. It's a really awesome overview overall of just like what to focus on and if franchising is even right for you. So I'll put that down at the bottom. You can check out our Franchise Buyers Academy at franchiseempire.com/FBA. But basically, when it comes to making money with a franchise, you can either go two directions. Pretty obvious: buy new or buy a resale. A resale, very simply, is just an existing business for sale. That's a franchise. Like pretty simple overall. Kevin just talked through a couple of scenarios, which is you can have these turnaround opportunities, or you can have ones that are highly profitable. Anything else to say about that point, Kevin? So our team have looked into a few hundred franchises and put together a list of 5 low-cost franchises that all make $1 million or more and that have a proven track record of both happy and profitable franchisees. So if you have a net worth of at least $150,000 and you want to see if the territory that you want is still available for any of these franchises, then you can go to franchiseempire.com/check territory. All right, let's get back to the episode.
It's pretty straightforward. No, I mean, I don't have anything to add. No.
Cool. Do you want to hit this part, or do you want me to hit it?
Yeah, I mean, one of the benefits of a resale is you only have to put 10% down, cash injection versus, typically 20% for a new franchise. So that is one of the many benefits of a resale. The banks like to see the, previous year's profit and loss statements. That helps provide them with a warm fuzzy to provide a loan to you. But in general, I'd say it's much easier to get a loan for a franchise than it is a non-franchise business, whether it's resale or starting new.
Yeah. And some of the, I know that you recently helped some of our clients acquire, you found the resales, help them acquire it, kind of help them through the process overall. Is that what they did, or how did they go through the funding process, and how is that different overall than if they were, just like buying a new territory?
Yeah. So a couple clients chose to just kind of self fund. These were more turnaround opportunities. Definitely have helped a lot of people go through the SBA route. So we have lenders that, depending on the size of the investment, we'd recommend different lenders through Franchise Empire. But we can connect you with the lenders to help understand what loan makes the most sense for them, how much exactly they're going to need to put down. But I mean, all that stuff, the more I think about it, the more I help people with these resales and we see them, the more like I feel like you definitely, whether you work with us or somebody else, you should not do it on your own. It's pretty complex. There's a lot of things that just like get thrown your way that do not happen if you go through the process with a franchisor of buying a new unit. And a lot of things that can go south. It can be a roller coaster that, you just, I wouldn't recommend it. I think you can get yourself in a bad spot if you're trying to do it, especially if it's your first business.
Yeah. Yeah, and Kevin's referencing the just the due diligence process and logistics of buying a resale. There's a lot of components to it. So I bought our second store as a resale, as a turnaround opportunity. We got it for about a third of the price of what it would have been to open up a new one. And yeah, it was that was an intense process overall. And then I sold both of our locations and represented us in the transaction, and just yeah, complex. There's so many layers to it in terms of the due diligence, and Kevin and his wife own a business brokerage franchise, so both you guys very familiar with the resale world as well. This is something that's kind of unique to resales overall, is the element of of seller financing. So have you seen that come into play at all in some of these resales, and what do you feel like is the opportunity there?
Yeah. On turnarounds where, you're basically getting a steal, you're probably not going to get the opportunity for much seller financing, but you can try to negotiate it. But, I definitely, there is an opportunity to do a combination of like SBA loan plus seller financing. If you do have some seller financing, that seller has a stake in the game to help with the transition, to help with the ongoing support period that negotiate. So I think it is smart to try to get some element of seller financing. Like I've heard people try to get 100% seller financing, and that's just not, like, there's no value to the seller to do that. Like that's never going to happen. So like, don't even, I mean, you can try it, but they're not going to take you seriously. So it needs to be, in our experience, mostly you're going to fund it through self fund or SBA in combination with a minority, portion of seller financing.
Yeah, what? Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the idea. I mean, I know there's a lot of stuff online around buy a business with no money down, but guys, most of the time, uh, an owner that's trying to get out, they don't want to drag it out, and they want to get paid. But there are some unique opportunities where if the business shows a pretty strong profit margin, you can actually now you can bypass if you have strong financials. The If you get at least 10% seller financing, you could potentially not have to put any money down, or you finance 90%, seller finances 10%, then you're actually buying it with no money down. Now at that point, it's like your debt service is going to be pretty high, like your debt payment. So it better be a really, the business better be cash flowing a lot for it to like make sense for you to do that overall. But seller financing, it's an interesting part. I remember a few years ago, one of the guys I helped buy Resale, he got like 5%, 5 or 10% seller financing, like 5 or 10% down, and then the rest SBA. And that was how he was able to kind of make it happen overall. So it's super interesting. I do see we got some questions coming in, so we'll hit them a little bit towards the end. Yeah, we'll hit them towards the end. So keep dropping your questions if you have it. Turnkey operation. So what's I know we've helped a few people buy resales. What's an example of a turnkey operation that you recently helped one of our clients acquire, and kind of what was the overall like infrastructure in place in terms of just kind of team and all that stuff?
Yeah. I mean, the first example that came to my mind was a painting franchise that had been around for a while and the owner was retiring. So those are pretty nice situations. But the owner was, I believe, 10 to 15 hours a week at a very high level running the business. They had one sales person that was focused on residential, one focused on commercial work. And so those people would be, come along with the transfer of the business. And then they had an office manager that did all like the bookkeeping and inbound inquiries from clients. And then I think they had like a project manager, product man, whatever you want to call them, that managed all the crews, subcontracting crews that did the actual painting work. So 4 employees total with that one, which especially those sales, like we always talk about, sales drives everything. Having those sales people come along for the ride is probably pretty huge in that type of business where, you have one focus on residential and then they know the ins and outs of how to speak with customers, and the other one trying to hunt down and get big commercial jobs.
Yeah, 100%. And that was a pretty significant operation. I mean, in that situation, that client, her fiance was a franchise owner with a different franchise,
Hmm.
and she was essentially an entrepreneurial employee, right?
Yeah.
Like where it was like she was gonna be able to handle taking over that business, but possibly for someone who had kind of no business or hiring or management experience, that could have been a situation where it might have been too much to bite off, right?
Yeah, potential. I mean, it just kind of depends on, your experience and managing other people and your comfort level of managing those types of employees as well. That's another thing we help people kind of evaluate is like realistically, do you think you can manage this type of work and these type of employees doing the work? That's a big thing to think of about. We're working with another client that's looking at a in-home senior care franchise that's for sale. And they have 30 companion care workers. It's a huge staff, and they have a manager that manages that team. And the owner primarily does the high level KPIs of the business development, which is nice, but that's a pretty big operation. And so that's something you have to really think long and hard about, is like, are you ready to step into something like that?
Hey, so if you want to figure out if you should buy a franchise and learn the fastest and easiest way to figuring out the best franchise to buy and everything you need to know about the process, then you'll want to go get access to our Franchise Buyers Academy. In our Franchise Buyers Academy, you'll get a behind the scenes look into specific franchises and exactly how much money they are making. You'll get simple formulas for finding money-making franchises and a blueprint on how to scale them into a franchise empire that can be sold for a lot of money later on. You'll be able to finally answer the question on, should I buy a franchise? Now you can get access at franchiseempire.com/FBA. Now let's get back to the episode. Wow. Yeah, wow. Wow, 30. Yeah, that's serious. But what an exciting opportunity. I think, for me when I think about for those of you guys listening in a little bit we'll talk about kind of how you can get access to and potentially find some of these franchise resales, whether you want to reach out and work with us or whether you're the type of person where like you would never reach out and work with us and you like to do everything on your own. That's cool. We'll share kind of both paths for you there. But I almost said the F word again. I totally lost my train of thought into what I was gonna say. Oh man,
This one in particular was not listed. It's still not
it
listed.
wasn't.
No, it's not listed anywhere. I had spoken with is super random actually, to be honest with you, but I was speaking with the franchisor about another candidate in another market, and I said, "Hey, what are the odds you have any resales in this area of Texas?" He's like, "As a matter of fact, we have this owner that has been talking to us, and so literally has not been listed." So though, those are the type of opportunities that are really exciting because you can potentially get them before they hit the open market. That's not like the standard. It doesn't happen every time, but those are some of the ways we can try to uncover is just by our connections and reaching out and doing the work to see if there's anything that, might be out there.
Yeah, and the reason why I titled this "The Secret World of Franchise Resales" is because, and I meant to mention this at the beginning, guys. You could talk to 10 people in the franchise industry and potentially people that help people find and buy franchises, and none of them talk to you about a franchise resale, even know how to navigate the process of finding franchise resales, or they just don't want to deal with it. And so it really is kind of a hidden and secretive world because most franchise brokers, consultants, whatever they call themselves, they just don't know how to navigate franchise resales because, as Kevin was saying before, it's complex, right? So when you're looking at a franchise resale, and this isn't to cover the due diligence, just kind of talk about the opportunity at a high level. But you got to get a letter of intent in first. You got to negotiate a purchase agreement. Typically, want to have an attorney review that purchase agreement. You have to do due diligence and review profit and loss statements. Then you want to, potentially look at payroll reports. You got to validate that some of that information is correct. Look at tax returns. There's a lot of things that you got to look at in terms of your due diligence and then be able to understand those things to make sure that what you're buying is what you think you're buying is what you're buying and that everything checks out. And that's why it's super important to have professionals with you, and it's just a much more complex transaction. But the beauty is that you can potentially step into a business that's already cash flowing, that completely replaces your income from day one. And we have some high figure earners that reach out to us to work with us where they're making 150 200 grand plus a year, and it's like, I really would prefer not to start from scratch. And some of these attractive opportunities that have seven-figure price tags to them, they typically have a really strong profitability that they're showing. This is, of course, not to um, just like disclose any sort of specific profits. You would have to look at the numbers for every business, but it's an interesting opportunity. I think it combines the best of both worlds. Right now, people are really interested in business buying, right? Like buying an existing business. But some of you guys, if you bought an existing business, you'd be completely lost because maybe what happened? Like, let's play this scenario right out, Kevin. Like, someone sees there's a plumbing business or an HVAC company, and it's like, cool, they're making 300 grand in profits. Maybe they're making 1.2 1.5 in gross sales. I'm really interested in buying this existing HVAC company. It's a need, not a want. It's recession proof. But then they go, oh wait, I know nothing about the HVAC business.
Right.
Sounds cool, right?
Yeah, I tell our clients that all the time. I do think, I encourage you to look at businesses for sale that aren't franchises, but like my wife's got one listed now. It's a small plumbing business, but the guy's moving out of state. It's like when that guy's gone, there's not going to be no competition's going to help you out. I can guarantee you that. There's going to be like, I don't know how you're going to figure out how to run this business when you have those downfalls. Whereas, the franchise model, you have other owners you can tap into that aren't competing with you. You have the support from corporate, you have the systems. It's just way different. So it's a really good point. It can be riskier to buy an existing business.
I definitely think so, especially if it's in something that you like that's your background in, probably not, right? Like
Yeah,
if you're like an HVAC tech or whatever, you have background in that industry, cool, go for it. But if you don't have experience in that industry and you're just like, oh, cool, I want to buy a business that I can replace my income, that's part of the reasons why I like franchise resales because it gives you the best of both worlds. You get an existing business, but then you also have the support network. You have a franchisor that they need you to succeed because the win-win. The more money you make, the more money they make, and based on royalty structure overall. And then yeah, you do have other franchisees that want to help you. Surprisingly, like there are franchise systems where like franchisees will sometimes bend over backwards to really help you in the process. There's some franchisors where they even assign you mentors, right, Kevin?
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Is that what you're about to say?
yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah, but no, I think it's especially if you get in the right type of franchise system where they have built that culture and environment where people are helping each other. I mean, dude, everybody wants to get back when you get successful and you're a good person, like you want to help other like new people out. Like that's just like I don't, unless you're a complete asshole, like you're gonna want to like help, the new franchise owners out. So um yeah, Suresh here had a good question about do brokers get any commission? I imagine he's saying on the buying side. But I wanted
Yeah,
to
what you want to clarify your question?
if it is on the buying side, Suresh, one of the points I was going to make is like Tarek was talking about, a lot of brokers and consultants won't even show you resales. It is complex and they don't even know how to navigate it, one, but also two, there's a lot that can go wrong where, a broker may not potentially get paid for a long time. So their incentive, and so like we do things differently, and we have a structure where we're going to help you look at resales regardless of when we're going to get paid, basically. And so I think that is another reason where, the question was a good one. Like, how do they get paid? Well, it is different. Yeah, there we go. There's the question.
Yeah. And to be clear, guys, so like it's funny, we're running Facebook ads now. Up until this point, we've built this business organically, making YouTube videos. People would get value, reach out, ask for help, become clients. And so, we're ready to scale and just help people in a bigger fashion. And there was someone who commented on one of the Facebook ads, like it was the one for 5 low cost franchises that make $1 million, and he's like, "Oh, so you're just giving this out from the goodness of your heart?" And I'm like, "No. Here's the way ads work. Okay, so about 1,000 people will see the ad. Um, about the goal is that about 100 will want to give their information to get the free information, give their information to get the free information from the ad." And then maybe out of those 100 people, 10 people go, wow, this was valuable and helpful. I really like it. I'd like to do business with these people. So to be clear, like when we do these live streams, like our intention, we have two intentions: to provide value and to help educate you. And we know that 90% of you will never reach out. And that's cool. You'll get some value out of this. And this is awesome. Like Kevin and I really enjoy doing this. Um, just because we have the heart of teachers, and then we know that a certain percentage of you will want to do business with us, and it's perfect. It's a win-win scenario. So like, in the sense of like, does the broker get any commission? Like, our intention is to make money. We are a for-profit business, so the way our business is designed, we want to help people find franchise opportunities. When we match them with the franchisors, then we generate a commission or referral fee, and it's a great win-win because you're not struggling anymore trying to find the right franchise opportunity. You get a trusted advisor in the process. You've never done it before, and it's win-win. What's unique about Franchise Empire is we will keep supporting you and working with you not only through the due diligence process, which most brokers and consultants won't do, but after you sign your franchise agreement too, which is unique to us. But to be fair, let's talk about some of the cons of buying a resale, because there could be some cons to buying a resale. So the first one I'll speak on, which is it could be very hard to turn around a business and it may not work. So remember we talked about in the beginning that there was two ways to buy. You could buy a profitable resale, or you could buy turnaround opportunity. Now we've had clients buy turnaround opportunities, and I know Emmanuel's doing well. By the way,
Yeah.
and we've had clients buy turnaround opportunities. Typically, a turnaround, you're buying a business, you're buying a resale that's not. It's either losing money or it's just kind of break even. And so, because of that, you often have the opportunity to buy that resale for lower than what it is to start it from new, right? So, but in that instance, their resales take a tremendous amount of work that's front loaded, and sometimes it's, think of it as like, okay, here's the analogy I'll use. A turnaround resale could be the difference of like having to buying a fixer upper as a house, where you might have to demo some stuff, and it's going to be real messy when you're demoing, and you may find when you demo that there's like some stuff behind the walls, you know what I mean? And versus potentially if you buy new, where it's just like you're building a house from the ground up, everything's going to be brand new, it's going to look nice, but you're going to pay a premium for that to build a new house. And so when we bought our resale, oof, that was hard in the beginning. It took me about a year to get that turned around. Granted, there were some things that weren't in our favor, that it was a hard location. There were no other locations in the market. There were some things, and I went in cocky because we were crushing it with the first store, and I got slapped with some humble pie there. Um, but what's your perspective on kind of turnarounds and what that takes?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I like turnarounds for the most part, but I say when we work with clients, I'm like, we're not going to look at a resale just because it's a resale. If it's in like a system, a franchise system that is not proven, they don't show the potential of what it could be. Like if
Mm,
the potential of the system is still low and this is like a turnaround or a bad performing location, like there's no sense even looking at it. But if it's like a really solid franchise overall, where you can see like, wow, like the AUV for this is $2 million for their Z's, and this company's doing 300,000. Obviously, there's something wrong with this potential owner. They're not following the system. Then that's an exciting opportunity to me, even if you have to come in and demo some stuff to get it to where it should be. And the other thing about franchises is the franchisor will still put you through the same training that you would go through as a new owner. So you're going to get all that training and understand the right way to run the business. You're going to come into the business where the owner's probably not doing it the right way, but you'll still get that training from the corporate, which is, I think, a big differentiator.
what yeah, 100. That's such a good point, and I know that from our newsletters. And if you guys don't know, anyone probably watching, you probably see on Mondays, Kevin and I do a live newsletter where we go over one specific franchise resale available and one specific um, franchise of the week. And I know you've mentioned that and put that in the newsletter. When that happens, when you go, okay, this resale is doing 500 grand in sales, but the average location in their FDD does 900. So there's obviously some areas of opportunity there. What about for resales that are really profitable? You want to talk about that and paying a higher price, and like that one comment that we got that one time when the person was like, it's selling for 1.1, that's so expensive. What's the reframe around that people should be thinking about that?
Yeah, I mean, so in general, in the like business brokerage world, when you look at a business and how it should be valued, it is generally a multiplier of the seller discretionary earnings, which is net profit plus any add backs that the owners are receiving from the business. You know, bonuses they're paying themselves, like writing off a car on the, whatever it may be. It's basically the total earnings of that owner in a given year. And it's, usually go back 3 years. So usually it's anywhere from between a 2 and 3.5 times multiplier of that seller discretionary earnings. So that's why you can get to those high levels, because if you have a business that's doing 2 million in revenue, could very well be doing 400,000 in net profit or seller discretionary earnings. And when you multiply that by 3, that's 1.2 million. So that's the fair asking price. And that's how you get to it. And so you can reasonably assume if you take over that business and you keep things status quo, you can recognize that kind of net profit. You will have to pay your debt payment, which is going to, decrease that for you at the start until you've paid down your debt, but still a very profitable business. So I don't know if that goes into the weeds too much or not, but that's typically why you see those big values.
Yeah, and I think you hit it like nail on the head. And so we had this was a while back. We had someone that Kevin had found a really great resale for, and the person I know had sent me an email or responded to an email like, it's over $1 million. It's really expensive. And it was like we realized, oh, this was just an opportunity for education. And we realized that a lot of you guys may not have experience with this stuff. You just don't know. You may see a price tag of 1.1, 1.2 million and go, that's so expensive. Why would I buy this for 1.2 million? Well, it's because it's typically priced right? This is why due diligence is important. It's typically priced that way because it's making more profit. So if you're saying I want to buy a business or resale that I can fully replace my income with, right? As an example, and you're making, for easy number sake, 100 grand a year in your job, right? So you're like, we have a conversation. You're like, if I could find something that I made 100 grand a year, I would walk away tomorrow, right? Cool. Awesome. So we find a business that's doing 300 grand, then at a 3 or 4 times multiple, it's going to be somewhere between 900 grand and 1.2. And then, like Kevin said, if you finance it, let's just say you have another 100 grand or so in debt payments that you're taking. So now after those debt payments, 300 grand in profit minus 100 grand in your SBA loan or debt payments, you got 200 grand, right? Then you're paying taxes on that. You want to keep some money in the business bank account. You don't want to pull it all out. That gets you to where you're looking to go in terms of your $100,000 a year profit. So, if you're looking for something that's producing more, you want to look at, you want to just ignore franchises that are lower priced, because the lower priced it is, that means the less money that it is making. It's the easy way to judge. Super easy way.
Yeah, I love that point. And honestly, like a lot of times when push comes to shove, people are just like, when they think about taking out $1 million loan, they're just like, I'm not going to do that, and and that's something you need to really be straight with yourself when you think you want to resell, is like to replace your income. Like, well, if you look inside yourself, you're not really willing to take out that kind of loan and risk, then, I would just start from new in a different franchise.
Yeah. And that's why I have it listed as a con, right, guys? Like, you may be wondering, like, well, why is that listed as a con? Because it could be more expensive, and you just, from a risk standpoint, even though it meets your goals, you just may not feel comfortable with it. And at the end of the day, that's okay. There's no right or wrong, really. It's just a matter of like finding the opportunity that, that aligns with your goals overall. Quick reminder for those of you watching, if you're getting value, you go, hey, I like the idea of a resale. If you want to see if there are any resales available in your area, go to franchiseempire.com/resales, and our team can do a complimentary call with you to see and check what's available in your area, if there's anything available in your area. The team and staff may need to be replaced. So, depending upon the resale that you buy, I know when we bought ours, the turnaround opportunity, the previous owner had kind of let a lot of the staff kind of do whatever they wanted. I mean, they would literally like sit on the counters. They were in their hats backwards. I'm pretty OCD, so it was like, you got to wear your uniform.
That's not going to apply with you as the boss.
No,
That's gonna
no.
stop real quick.
Yeah, I feel like now that I've gotten that was let's see, that was back in 2018. So that was 6 years ago. So I was still quite I'm rough around the edges, but I was way more rough around the edges at that point. I feel like now it's like, okay, whatever. Anyways, the team may need to be replaced. You may have employees that are not cutting it, that are bad for the culture, that are bringing things down, or that you just don't vibe with. Maybe they vibed with the other owner, they don't vibe with you. And so the business may have been successful because of that staff in place. And they may turn over just because of you buying it, or you may need to turn them over because of buying it. So it's just something to think about, consider. You can put in place like retention bonus. There's all sorts of things that you can do. You may not want to retain them,
Yeah.
right? You want to talk about this one, Kevin?
Yeah. So, I mean, in a resale, the territory is defined. So there's not really any expanding outside of that territory unless you talk to the franchisor and get an understanding of what's surrounding you. But oftentimes there may be no territories around you anyway, so you have to take what you can get from the resale territory. But you know, if you're in an area like and we're working together, I always ask like, how far are you willing to drive for the right opportunity? Like 45 minutes, an hour. If I find an exceptional resale that's an hour and away, that's more than replacing your income. Is that something you'd be okay with? And if not, that's totally cool. We can stay within a certain driving radius. But yeah, you're kind of at the mercy of what that territory looks like.
Yeah, 100%. And what's cool is that so and we'll wrap up here in a second. So this by the way, there's uh okay, we'll hit the rest of these cons real quick, but there's like a whole bunch more to this module where we actually talk about like specific clients that we've helped, and there's like more stuff to it as well. Where we talk about new franchises. This is actually a whole module in our Franchise Buyers Academy. So again, this is just like one small module of many things. There's a module on profits and showing profitability of different franchises, margins, showing sales to investment ratios, showing how to scale, how to hire, how to fund, all sorts of cool things. So if you're interested in those things and you're someone who's interested in buying a franchise, trying to figure out how it all works and how you could do it, or you're just not sure, then you can go to franchiseempire.com/FBA and join our Franchise Buyers Academy, which is we've gotten a tremendous amount of really positive feedback from it. But let's see. So you're inheriting the terms, contracts, or leases that the previous owner had in place, right? So not there could be opportunities to renegotiate some of them, but like in my instance, when we bought our resale, the location was bigger than the footprint of what needed to be for the franchise. It was 1,400 square feet, and really the top end of the range was like 1,200. And so we were paying for 200 extra square feet, which turned out to be a good like $600 to $800 more a month in rent payments, and we didn't need that. And we could have really used that $600 to $800 a month. And so like that's not something you can change. Like especially if it's a retail location, like you're not going to go do a whole nother build out. You would buy from new. So there could be some different terms, contracts, etc. in place when you're buying a resale that they may just get what's called assigned to you, where you don't have the ability to change those terms. So those are things that you'd want to look at in the due diligence process to just have an understanding at least of like what you're walking in through. Kevin, do you want to talk about this point, the limited inventory available, and then kind of touch on what you were sending me a message about earlier?
Yeah.
With the resales?
Yeah. Limited inventory. I mean, that is the downside. Like, it's hard to find good resales in most markets. So if you do reach out about resales, we typically encourage you to start engaging with us as soon as possible. So even though we can't find anything now, we can continue to do reach outs beyond on the lookout, and maybe like 3 months from now, we do have something that pops up in your market that is a really good opportunity. I would highly stress when those opportunities come up, you need to act fast. So that is kind of like the counterintuitive thing, is like where, there's all this stuff you need to do due diligence on, but you have to move quickly through it. Otherwise, you're going to lose out on those opportunities.
Yeah. And
You,
before you go into the other part, what my advice typically is, just get it under contract.
yeah,
Like resales are like buying a home, where it's like, just get the home under contract. If the home inspection comes back bad, you can, as long as you negotiated an out, you can always get out. So get the resale under contract, under a purchase agreement. Make sure you've negotiated a 30-day back out due diligence period, and then go through the due diligence. But I've had an individual before that it was an amazing resale, and I told him not to go back trying to renegotiate with the owner until they had the fully executed purchase agreement. Guess what he did? He went back, tried to renegotiate with the owner because he was getting a little nervous, and the owner chose to go with a lower offer because she thought had a higher likelihood of going through, because the guy's skittishness was making her nervous.
yeah,
And I was like, dude, you just killed the deal. You just literally, it's like, and then of course afterwards, people always want what they can't have. Oh man, I really wanted that. And, I was really excited about that. Well, listen to your advisors, ladies and gentlemen, be coachable.
yeah. That's a really good point.
So how do you get access to to inventory out there?
So we have a couple databases that franchisors will post resales on that aren't like Biz by Sell. They're not public facing. So we have access to that. We pay for access to those. We also just naturally have a lot of contacts in the industry, and we do literally like a pretty manual process of reaching out to dozens of franchises that kind of meet the criteria of what our clients are looking for, and asking if there's any resales available now or coming onto the market that we can get out ahead of. Just through that work over the last couple of years, where we've been more, not focused, I wouldn't say, but more intentional about looking for resales, we've gotten a lot of franchisors reach out to us proactively, talking about like, hey, I'm going to have some resales in these markets. I know you guys do a lot of that stuff, which is really, really cool. So we just had one today, a great home services brand. We love this franchise. I'm working with a client on just a new location somewhere, and the developer said, hey, I want to give you a call because I know, you're interested in resales. We have these two markets that we're currently helping them value the business, getting an asking price. Please be on the lookout for any of your clients. So, which is awesome. We'd love to hear that, because like we can get ahead of that stuff,
And they're not, so to be clear, these are not publicly available on the market.
No, not even listed on the internal databases that I talked about yet. They're just like, they're in the process of working towards a listing like that. So again, if we can get like the speed to react on those things is really important. So if we can get ahead of it and get ahead of any potential competition, that's good.
100%. Yeah. So cool, guys. All right, let's I think we answered a lot of the questions naturally. But let's see real quick. So we answered what are the pros and cons of franchise resales. We went through that whole thing. We went through that. We we covered the typical income multiple for resales, but you want to just hit on that again real quick, Kevin?
Yeah, it's usually just a multiplier of the seller discretionary earnings. So it really depends on the type of business. I would say in general for franchises, you're like 2 to 3.5% multiplier, but it can vary.
Yeah. Next question is, do you need a business plan to show SBA?
Yes.
Okay. Roger that.
Yes, you do, and there's a lot of resources that we can help you guide. Yeah, but yes, you do.
Yeah. He was saying, got it. The question was, is resale commission different from new sale?
It can be, yeah, it can be less, to be honest, but it can be. It just depends. Every situation's different.
Yeah. What is a better measure if they have it listed EBITDA? Yeah, I think you're missing a D there. So that would say EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, or cash flow. You want me to answer that, or you got it?
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear your answer.
So, like this, yeah, this can get really technical. So, EBITDA is basically the what most people would classify as what shows as profit on a profit and loss statement.
Mhm.
Um, Technically, the term cash flow is a little bit deceptive because cash flow is really what you're able to pull from the business. So I like to focus on the more technical terms just because there's a lot of ambiguity in something like saying cash flow. Someone may say cash flow and your definition of cash flow, my definition of cash flow, the other person's definition of cash flow is like three different things. EBITDA, everyone knows that means earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. And that is a technical, financial term. So, that's what I would be looking at overall. Um, Cash flow can often include a lot of the add backs, like Kevin was saying. Like if it may show the profit, the EBITDA, on the profit and loss statement, but what it doesn't reflect is that the owner is, paying themselves a salary of 70 grand. And so
Mhm.
you got to add that back in. And then they're paying for their car insurance, and that's 3 grand. And they're paying for their health insurance, and that's 10 grand a year, and so on and so forth. Anything else to add to that, Kevin?
No, that was solid. When do you ask for tax returns once you're under purchase agreement?
Yeah, wait till you're under contract.
Yeah.
Because my perspective is, you know, you get the profit and loss statements, and what you want to do is assume that the profit and loss statements are accurate, right?
Yeah.
That they're true and that they're accurate to just get under contract. Use that as a way to negotiate, right? The purchase price, negotiate the purchase agreement, and then, as a part of the purchase agreement, it's you get to go through your financial due diligence. So, going to see tax returns, payroll reports, all that stuff. And then that's when you look at tax returns. And that's when you then verify, once you're under formal due diligence and under contract, that's when you're then verifying and validating that the information on the P&L is actually true. And if you find something, that's when you then have the opportunity to negotiate, or you can back out of the deal. That's at least my perspective. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. That makes sense to me.
Cool. Awesome. All right, everyone. Well, I hope you enjoyed it again. Last kind of call to action here. If you want to see what franchises are available in your area, you can go to franchiseempire.com/resales. You will need at minimum, especially for resales, you really need to have at least $250,000 net worth overall. Um, because a lot of them, to get funded, you need to have collateral, especially if it's a bigger franchise. So yeah, anyways, you can schedule a complimentary call with the team. I think there's one last question. What if the seller wants more than 2.5, 3.5x multiple?
They very well could ask for that. Yeah, and then there's like gray area in terms of like hard assets too, like equipment and vehicles, whether you should add on to the multiple, like the multiple of seller discretionary earnings in a, so that part is, from what I understand, I'm not a my wife is more in depth into the business brokerage stuff, but that's kind of a gray area in terms of negotiations. So maybe sometimes they're asking for more than that multiple, and it's in the form of like getting money for assets. But if they're wanting more than just like a traditional multiple, usually what a business broker is going to do is look at comparable sales, just like a real estate market. They're going to look at comparable sales in your market and understand what multipliers were applied to those sales and those specific industries that are relevant to whatever you're looking at. So that's how, from my understanding, the average like multipliers usually created. So I would just like, I don't know, I would probably trust the data more than like, okay, I'm an owner and I think I should get 5 times just because, you know, I got 100 Google reviews, 5-star Google reviews or something like that. I don't know. That was a long answer, but
Yeah, it was no, it was a solid answer. And what I'd add to that is I think it depend there one, there could be very justifiable instances where a business is worth more than a 3.5x multiple. One of them could be the instance of what Kevin's talking about. If there's a significant amount of equipment, like sometimes there's equipment and like he's saying vehicles that are worth a couple hundred grand. So that's got to be factored in. Number two is it depends on if they're asking for a 5x multiple, why? Is it because that the owner is like, oh, there's a lot of future potential, the area is growing, etc. Well, at that point, it's like, great, but that's not what the business is performing at. And sometimes people will pay for the future potential if there's some really obvious signs. Maybe you're not willing to do that. That's fine too. But what the question is, the question you should be asking, Stu, is what drives the multiple. And so one of the key things that will make a multiple higher is number one, recurring revenue. So if it's a significant amount of the business is based on a recurring revenue model or contractual revenue, this is why franchisor systems can sell for 10, 15, 20 times multiples, because there's contracts and agreements with franchisees, right? So recurring revenue, and then number two is the more absentee an owner is, or the more there's layers of management, the higher the multiple will be. So if you look at a franchise and the owner is in the day to day, right, and they don't have any manager or salespeople, it's just them, you're probably looking at 1 to 2 times earnings, right? Now, if my buddy recently sold his company for, what did he sell it for? Like a 6 or 7 times multiple. And so, but he had a general manager who was running the company. He was not involved in the day-to-day of the business. He had multiple divisional managers or departmental managers, sales managers, construction managers, all those different things. So that, like, there could be businesses that sell for a good 6, 7, 8 times multiple, especially as you go towards, okay, if you're looking at something where it's 5, 10, 15 territories, locations, you tend to see a bigger and higher multiple in those instances than if you're just looking at like a single location. So that's my real nerdy answer. Cool, guys. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. Kevin, thanks for joining last minute. Appreciate it. I know we ran a bit over too. So, but I think people got a lot out of it. So, all right, y'all. Peace. Hey, before we go, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Please subscribe here on YouTube if you haven't already. And the biggest thank you that you could ever give me is to share this episode with someone who you think will benefit. That means that we can share this message with more people and hopefully positively inspire them like we have you. So thank you. And until next time, go build your empire.